Good morning, Tiffany.
Good morning, Yo-Yo.
Welcome to the Mind Body Energy Project, everyone.
Happy day after your birthday day.
Thank you.
Typically, that's the saddest day of the year for me.
The day after your birthday?
Yeah.
How come?
Because it's going to take another 364 days to get back to my
To your
favorite day of
birthday
the year.
again?
Yeah.
That's so funny. I usually have like this thing said. We on Facebook still?
I believe so. Good morning, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
I'm just trying to adjust all my screens here so that I can keep an eye on stuff. I promise not to get too distracted.
Well, it says we have to live stream again. So here we go, round two. Good thing we can edit this out of the podcast. Let's see. Although we can't on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, please stay with us.
It's like that show, Watch What Happens Live. I never watch it, but I think the title is interesting because everything is live.
Yeah, no, totally.
And they ask celebrities questions that maybe they don't want to answer, but they have to.
Yeah. Oh, technical difficulties. Like, come on, Facebook, don't do this to us today.
Well, I put on the Facebook that it was a curveball kind of day. So,
Well,
I already set the
clearly
precedent.
that's true. Clearly that's true. Let us know when we are back.
Maybe I created a self-fulfilling prophecy, though.
Let's see.
I think we're back. Yeah.
Okay, yay. We're back. So, you were saying that you don't like the day after your birthday because you have to wait another year until your birthday comes.
Yeah, it's just a sad day for me.
Yeah, I'm typically like, I'm not a big, hi Neil, again, technical difficulty.
Hi, Katie.
What a morning it has been. What do you call it? I don't know. I always have like a processing, like a deep processing that seems to always happen around my birthday. Although I think this birthday was the first time I really kind of tuned into what was coming up for me. And so I actually had like this last night, like a full blown like cry and like rebalancing. And I was like, oh, great. We're talking about chakras tomorrow. And I feel like mine just blew out. But it was good. So
maybe it was the blocks of your chakras that blew out, or just the stuff from your last trip around the sun that were just like, okay, we're done.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. It literally felt like yesterday was like, okay, it's your birthday, and now let's clear and rebalance. But it was like very like visceral type of thing. So yeah, I didn't do anything. I worked yesterday and then not too late, and then I had a birthday dinner and then cried my eyes out. But I feel much better today.
Good.
Yeah, good. Thankful for the cleanse, thankful for the rebalancing.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of funny that we're talking about chakras when all that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into the conversation today, I'm so glad to see some of you here, and I'm excited to continue our chakra talk. And please, you guys, share with us anything that comes up for you or what came up for you from the last podcast. If you have questions about the chakra stories, whatever, share it, because we love your interaction. But what you did post the bonus content for the Patreons, right?
I did. The bonus content for Patreons is a guided meditation through the chakras, and it's a foundational meditation. So it's really just going over the basics of the chakra, giving a few examples of what each chakra function is, and then also like a time for you to sense that energy of the chakra.
Yeah, it's funny every time, and we've said this to you guys before, but every time whatever the topic is that we do, it seems to highlight in our lives that week. which is great that we do the Dear Diary for Patreon. But what was funny is after we did the last talk about the chakras, what came up for me was, oh shoot, I think someone is trying to watch the old video, the one we lost service on. But anyway, what came up for me was I was reconnecting to and seeing. I was driving and I saw again that the way that the chakras came through for me and my channeling, and was getting, from years ago, and got some new information around that, and had a friend of mine who's a graphic artist create the actual image for me with that. So
very cool.
Yeah, so I've been like swimming in the chakras since our last discussion. So excited to keep going. What about you, honey? Did anything come up for you this week, chakra related?
Yes. Well, since that we all know that my holistic business is centered around the chakras, it was all around me, and I started digging up old material so that I can make new material. But diving back into that, I was like, wow, there's like a plethora of information here that's just been sitting and collecting dust, and it's very informative stuff. So it was nice to dive back into it and get reacquainted with it. And it was like an old friend that I haven't seen in a long time. And I'm just like, oh my God, I've missed you so much.
That's exactly what happened to you. It's funny that we both were brought back to like old material.
Yeah.
Chakras, and it's like breathing new life into it. So one of the things we wanted to make sure to talk to you guys about this morning was we didn't talk about what it may look like when the chakras are out of balance. So we did talk about the basic characteristics of the different chakra energies and what they're related to and this type of thing. But in a lot of ways, we can look at our own behaviors and projections or what's going on with us to tell what may be going on with any given chakra at any given time. So did you want to start us off on that? Are we starting back at the root again? Let's
always start at the root. Didn't we talk about foundations and buildings and
the penthouse?
Yep, the penthouse. You can't have the penthouse without the foundation. So we're talking about how an unbalanced chakra may present itself.
Yeah, the root.
Yeah. So the root chakra. So the root chakra is our basis of stability. Again, it is the foundation. It's security, stability, food, shelter, water, financial security, that kind of stuff. My vision's going to keep shifting because I have a slideshow open about how things may appear for balanced and imbalanced. So when it's balanced, we have stillness, we have security, physical health, abundance, we're grounded, but it can be excessive or it can be deficient. And some things that may show up when it's out of balance are things like selfishness, laziness, anger, addiction, being disorganized, being disconnected. And I mean, even down to like physical things, just being like sick, getting a cold or flu or anything, and just having like weight issues, over or underweight, just not having our physical form balanced.
What's interesting to me about the root chakra is it seems to be, even though a lot of people are interested in the third eye, a lot of people are actually dealing with a lot of root chakra stuff. Yeah, and I mean, especially because it is tied to our survival. And so there is a lot of times where people are out of balance in there, where it does, I mean, we're hyper focused on, do I have money for like the things I want to take care of, worried about our financial stability, worried about our security. And again, like sometimes feeling not safe in our bodies. And a lot of us don't even recognize that that's going on. But that's a very common thing for those of us who may have had like traumatic experiences in life, you know, even something like a car accident. Yeah. There are things that happen that make us feel not necessarily safe in body. And while those programs may be running in, you know, the background, the subconscious mind, it's still impacting the flow of our root chakra. So yeah, I mean, I think that one is a big one for people, whether they realize it or not, because of how important it is for us to feel safe and secure.
Right. I think it comes across as very simplistic because it is very basic, but we are oftentimes just kind of gleaming over our basic needs. And because of all the other chakras and what they do, or just all our other adaptive behaviors as a human being, we're meant to survive, so we adapt in order to survive, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're adapting in the most healthy, efficient way. So that's why I think a lot of root chakra issues get overlooked.
Yeah, and I just want to point out for everyone listening too, it just came up to share that one of the things where we can notice our root may be out of balance is a lot of times when this is happening, if we're not feeling secure or safe, whether it's financial, work, whatever it may be in your life, we often then start making fear-based decisions. Like we may not be making choices or doing things that are really aligned with what we feel called to, or what we really feel aligned with, because we have this fear of, I have to, it just is like, it's almost manic sometimes. So you can really pay attention to how you are making decisions in your life, and ask yourself, like, am I functioning out of fear? And if I am, fear of what? Because those types of ways of acknowledging yourself help you to work on your energy. So yeah, anyone too, like if you guys have some root chakra things coming up, or you think like, who is my thing? Imbalance, out of balance, what's going on? Please share it.
Yeah. And also, since we're mentioning that, for the Patreons, my Dear Diary this week there was questions about pendulums last week. My Dear Diary was showing you how to utilize a pendulum to test your own chakras. So it's kind of another tangible way of being able to get what your body knows out in front of your human eyes, so you can kind of like start to relate and go a little bit deeper.
Yeah. And it tells us a lot about, God, well, I guess we should move on before we go all over the place.
Yeah, I know. We
have some other chakras to go. Okay, so let's go up to the sacral.
Okay. So the sacral chakra, when it's balanced, so obviously balance is always homeostatic, so things are very neutral. But we're passionate about things. There's a healthy passion. Sometimes we can be overly passionate about things, or non-existent passion about something, but there's a healthy balance of passion and freely expressing yourself creatively. And then as far as like physical and emotional, there's intimacy, as far as like physical intimacy and emotional intimacy, and there's a way that you can engage in both of those things on a healthy balance level. So when it is imbalanced, when it's excessive or deficient, we can be overly emotional, or we can just be cold and rigid. Unhealthy attachments, as far as like codependency, or maybe even like sexual addiction or substance abuse, and even something like poor social skills shows a deficient sacral.
It's interesting that you said unhealthy attachments, because that's what just popped up for me, but it was like fear-based attachments, whereas our root chakra, we can tell it's out of balance if we're making fear-based decisions, especially around money and these types of things. But yeah, with the sacral, a lot of times we do have fear-based attachments. Like there's a fear of losing something, fear of like a disconnection, whether it's from another person or, an emotional fear, And another thing about the sacral that is so interesting too, and I brought this up last time, but it can be hypersensitive for empaths, because it is the center where we really it reminds me of where we really start to, where like say the root, I think more of our physical awareness, tangible, like touch and, material. Whereas once we come up into the sacral, we start to tap into those non-physical sensories, like what we feel and sense around us. And when it's out of balance, a way that you can tell too is if you are hypersensitive to everything and everyone around you. Like it may be like way too open because you're not grounded enough into yourself. So if you have, you know, experiences where you feel overwhelmed from being around certain people or being in certain environments, you may want to first go back and ground, working on the root, and then connect into having more clarity around what you feel and sense. That's a big one, and I had that experience before this.
It is a big one because I think the emotional body is one that we tend to steer away from because it is so sensitive, and that's where the center of emotion sits in our sacral chakra. So it's hard sometimes, especially as an empath, to discern your own emotions from somebody else's. And a lot of times our own emotions are being influenced by somebody else's emotions. And to really understand your own personal emotional body takes a lot. Yeah. And, you know, to really sit and investigate that on your own and get an understanding of it is a huge responsibility. But understanding that as it mixed with other people's sacral chakras is, I mean, it's a very poignant thing that I think we tend to avoid or even not realize that it's something to do or that it's a thing.
Yeah. And, you know, it just popped in mind too, because you mentioned our creative energy and our passion is in our sacral as well. And that's another thing, like when we have creative blocks, a lot of times we try to focus on our mental, whereas that can also be indication of like, let me sink into my sacral space and really like meditate on like what type of energy I'm holding there, so that you can come into like clearing those creative channels and allowing yourself, even asking yourself questions about like, what do I feel drawn to? What am I feeling passionate about right now? What are my desires right now? And why? Because sometimes what we desire, again, check in, is it fear-based or is it something that like lights you up and sets your soul on fire? This reminds me too, just really quickly, this last full moon that we had was like super duper. It was like the super moon, full moon, blood moon, wolf moon, lunar eclipse. Like it was a lot going on. And this ties with the sacral because that day what I decided to do was to bathe in music. So I actually literally all day I was listening, like blasting my favorite music, my favorite artist, because I knew the energy of that, connecting with, you know, the certain lyrics or the music, whatever it was I was listening to, it shifted my mood. Like I allowed myself to feel into the mood of the music. So I say that to say, if your sacral feels off or stuck sometimes, there are things like that you can do to help shift that energy or help you like go deeper into that.
Yeah. If you're not feeling creative, you can always get that sense from somebody else's creation or art that you appreciate or you feel connected to.
Totally. So Katie said, you're making me so excited to learn more. So much of this touches bits and pieces of my life, and I truly want to get my chakras aligned. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. Also, very new to meditation. Can't wait to listen to the guided meditation. Beautiful. I love that she said, can't wait to get my chakras aligned, because just as like a little side note, I think a lot of times it sounds like, you know, like when we get our chakras aligned, it's like, okay, that alignment's there. But then it does take that self-observation to manage and pay attention to you. So you notice when something's off balance.
Yeah.
So one thing that's really cool is if you go to like, you know, come to me or Tiffany and have like a Reiki session, have your chakras balanced. But the best way to maintain your balance and to help you come into alignment more easily, because we fall in and out all the time. I mean, life happens. Stuff is going to happen in your day that triggers you and like, whoop, throws you off. But if you are in observation of yourself and paying attention to like how you're functioning and like the why behind it all, it helps you to maintain balance more consistently, and more importantly, to like come back into balance with less resistance.
And we've talked about this in the past, that our energy is like a muscle. You know, the more you train that muscle, the more it's going to meet you where you're at each time it's conditioned to say, oh, this is how much weight I'm lifting. I'm ready for this. Like, however you tend to use those muscles, you're intentfully conditioning it in a certain way, then it will meet you. And then you're going to be more aware of it, or it'll just do what it does.
You know, I just became really aware of.
Tell me.
I'm like full blown in my 40s now. Woo! Ah! Okay. Sorry. Just had a moment like, oh my God. I'm like in my 40s. Okay. Anyway.
Sounds so scary.
Still trickling off like the birthday trauma.
Now my empath self is now like starting to get anxious about going into my 40s. So it's fine. It's fine.
Are you not there yet?
No, girl, I'm still in my 30s, please.
Oh, jerk. I thought you were like right behind me.
These gray hairs wouldn't let you know that, but whatever.
Okay. Well, okay, so solar
plexus.
On? Yes.
Solar plexus. So the solar plexus, when it's balanced, we're stable in thoughts and emotions. And that's a little bit different than the sacral chakra, because in our thoughts and our emotions related to the confidence of who we are. And it's acceptance of our place in the universe, appreciation for other people in our lives, and that our ego mind is in check. So we've talked extensively about the ego and the self. And because our solar plexus is our center of being and power and our right to be who we are, part of what comes with that is an ego, but the ego is necessary to create drive and motivation to live out this human life. But as we know, that thing can get completely out of whack sometimes. So when that's out of whack, or our solar plexus is out of whack, some things that could show up are things such as being judgmental, critical, stubborn, being a perfectionist or unsatisfied, even doubt and mistrust, apathy, avoidance.
What's interesting is that like all of them, I mean, the first three we're talking about, I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate. I mean, these are things that we always, they're common, that are on our minds. And the one thing I wanted to share with you guys about the solar plexus, which I think is pretty cool. One, last week I told you guys, I often tell people check your posture, because it speaks a lot to how you are projecting what's going on for you internally. Like if you're kind of slouched and like, that could be indication of feeling like some insecurity or what's going on with you internally. But
hi, Kristen.
With the
hi, Bryn.
Hey, Stano. Hi, Bryn. What's really interesting about it is it really does show, it's how we project, right? So a lot of times when you're thinking of, is my solar plexus imbalanced or not, you can look at what you're showing. Like, do you feel like you're in your authenticity? Do you feel like you are comfortable in being you? Do you feel like you're putting on masks, putting on a show? Like, what is really coming up for you around how you are showing up and allowing yourself to be seen? Or are you avoiding being seen even, So there's a lot of ways you can look at and see the balance there. But one cool thing, experience that I had, that I actually have people do in Reiki class, when I did my intuitive development training years ago, when we were working on the chakras, we had to partner up with someone and literally concentrate on opening or like kind of contracting one particular chakra at a time. And when you would breathe into and consciously expand your solar plexus, if the person across from you was doing that, it's like you could feel it almost, you could feel the impact of that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like thinking of, some people when we say, oh, they have a big presence, or someone walks in a room and you can't, everybody notices that there's just something about them that feels huge. Like, even if they're not saying a word, that's like a ginormous, like their stuff is radiating big, right? That's not necessarily always the greatest. That could be out of balance as well. But really pay attention to like that. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel like in your power? Do you feel like I'm here? Or do you feel like I'm kind of like, don't look at me, no. that can give you some indication of what's going on with your solar plexus as well.
It makes me think of the Care Bear stare. You know how each of right? You know how each of them had like a different emblem on their belly, and that was like their strength. And like when they did the Care Bear stare, they all were just like projecting their solar plexus of like giving out what their best characteristic was.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Solar plexus stare.
Right? Solar plexus activate. The Wonder Twins. So you guys too, like, let us know. Hi, Michelle. You guys let us know, like, what comes up for you. Like, how do you show up? And do you notice that you show up differently in different environments? Because I am that way. For example, like, if you come to my home or my space, I'm very like, woo, I'm open. I'm like, hey, welcome. But if I go to unfamiliar places, I'm kind of just like, just let me watch. What about you?
For me, I think it depends on the energy that I get from the people that are there.
Yeah.
Because I felt both of those ways in my own home. So yeah, it depends on the setting of the energy that is in there. Yeah. Hi, Mo. Sorry to keep you waiting all morning.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And then once we finally got on, our video feed shut down on Facebook. It's been, but we're here. Yay. Glad you made it. Okay. So what about the heart, honey?
Okay. A balanced heart. We have feelings of compassion. We're kind, caring, joyous. There's an ease with yourself and an ease with others. We have comfort with solitude, and we trust in divine timing of relationships. So when it's out of balance, we can have a lack of control of our emotions. We could be manipulative. We can put conditions on love, relationships that are unbalanced and not symbiotic. We could be a people pleaser. Negative thinking is a symptom. Feeling unloved, unworthy, or unappreciated. Hard time letting others in emotionally, and keeping distance.
How do you function with the heart chakra personally?
Me personally? Yeah. How do I function with that?
How do you think your heart chakra is flowing these days? You guys too, share. Come on.
These days, I think that my heart chakra is been more open than it ever has been, and it's more in an exploratory phase, I think. Because once you get your other chakras, once you start understanding your other chakras, like your solar plexus, like your sacral, like your root chakra, I'm just going to talk about the human ones now, because once you kind of get an understanding of those, they give you more of a confidence of like knowing where you're secure, understanding how your emotions work, understanding who you are. And then from those three up to the heart, that it's like, okay, like I know all of these things that are part of me. I can open up my heart because I know that if something comes in or out of here that might feel like it throws me off balance, I'm sure of these other ones that I have gotten to understand, and I know what they can do to like rise up and help nurture what may be in need next. Does that make sense? Like if something
it totally makes sense.
You in your heart,
that speaks to like what we were sharing last week about the importance of starting from the root up, because they really do build on each other. Of course, if you feel safe in your body, you feel tuned into your emotion, you feel in your personal power, naturally that's going to make you feel more safe to be vulnerable. Yeah. And also we mentioned last week about we don't necessarily realize just how strong the heart is, like how much, because, okay, so with the imbalance part, I mean, one of the ways you can really check in is like, really honestly, like, do I allow myself to be vulnerable? Am I only vulnerable in certain spaces, certain people? And again, considering why, like, what am I protecting? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid of being hurt? Like, what's coming up around that? Am I functioning from my past? And that kind of ties in, reminds me of the sacral too, is a lot of times right now we're functioning from a past experience. Like someone hurt us, so we're like, nope, shut down the heart. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, I'm not going to get burned again. But think about how that may be impacting you. So, and how that's impacting the flow or the balance of your heart chakra energy. Another thing you said, I forget how you worded it, but it also reminds me of, this is our space of compassion. And so when we are in a space more of judgment, instead of trying to be in understanding and compassion, that's another way you can kind of check like that heart chakra of like, why am I struggling to be compassionate or understanding? Mm-hmm. Like, how is my ego, that solar plexus energy, even like right below, like how is that infiltrating and throwing my heart chakra energy off? We have a lot of comments.
Yeah.
Ooh, exciting. Michelle said, I've been feeling really off since Sunday. I'm not attaching to feeling, I'm acknowledging it, but what's happening now is I'm noticing I want to be alone all the time and sort of want to go away on a plane by myself. Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? I think a lot of times when we are shifting through something or working through something or something's working through us, it is easier sometimes to be in a space of solitude because it can, again, you know, interacting with other people and we're trying to navigate what we're sensing from them while still dealing with our stuff. So I think it's very common to have that want to go into like hermit mode just so you can like focus on your stuff.
Well, it's almost like I'm trying to think of the best analogy for this, but I don't know. It's like if you have a wound, like you have an exposed wound, you're not going to be doing things like swimming in the ocean or somewhere where like more things could get in there to infect it. It's kind of like the same idea. Like you're working on your energies and exposing maybe your heart chakra or whatever it is, or doing your own work. You're already exposed. So other people's influences are going to make it harder for you to get into your stuff and discern like what's going on. So it like kind of clouds things. So it makes perfect sense that you kind of just want to go internal and protect that so that you can see what it is that's going on here, or what is exposed, so you can understand that without other things infecting it to some degree.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Another thing with that too is why it's also very beneficial to start the day in meditation. And even if you do 5 minutes, but it's just giving yourself this opportunity to align and balance and like get yourself grounded and focused so that you're not as susceptible to just sucking up everybody else's stuff, and you're not allowing yourself to start your day off from this chaotic off space. And we all know it. We hear it all the time. It's like one of the easiest things we could freaking do. Do you know? But
yeah,
just sit for 5 minutes before you interact with the world so you can get right with you, because it will be easier if you have to interact. I mean, she's a mom. She works. She has a lot. She's married. Yeah. Honey.
That's a lot.
You have a lot going on. So it's not like you can necessarily hermit, but you can try to manage it better by preparing your space. I know you know that.
And I want to just touch on that really quickly, because I think a lot of times, especially a lot of highly sensitive people, get that sense of like, I just want to go away. And then we think that it's a negative thing. And then it's like, oh God, like I'm going into a depression because I don't want to be near anybody, And that's what I think the common idea is when we start to feel things like that. Most people are like, oh, something's not right with your mental state. Like you're probably going into a depression or like whatever. But it's the way we look at things, it's the way we understand things. And if we understand like I'm doing this work and I need to just separate, and you understand the reasoning for that, then you don't have to take on this collective idea of everybody else out there that's not doing the work, that wants to label it as something.
You know, I always think of like what our souls signed up for, to go like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go through my healing crisis, and I'm going to go through these cycles of like needing to balance and clear, but I'm going to do it while I'm still having to deal with everybody else, versus like going off to be a monk. You know what I mean? Like I always think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it does take more effort. Yeah. Katie said, that is my biggest concern, is my heart chakra. It's what sparked my interest in everything. Yeah. I mean, that's a powerhouse.
It is a powerhouse, but also, as we talked about on the last podcast, I like to see the heart as the bridge to the spirit into the human chakras. So I do think a lot of times we're pulled from the heart chakra to begin this journey, because it's like, you're going to see the holistic perspective of what everything that we are, the spirit and the human side.
Well, I think it's very important too to get familiar about the truth of the heart chakra, because a lot of times when it is out of balance, we like to say are like, oh, like I'm listening to my heart, or oh, you know, when really it's like ego. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
sometimes where we say like trust your
for
heart,
sure.
but really what the person is trusting is their ego. So it's like you really, it's beneficial to get familiar with that energy and knowing the difference between, am I, again, like being compassionate, is my actions and my choices, are they coming from a space of love? Are they coming from a space of fear? Am I coming from a space of compassion? Am I coming from a space of judgment? Am I just trying to, a big one is, what do you call it? Like justify. Am I trying to justify my actions or behavior just to be right? Versus like, am I able to be neutral and see like this whole situation from a loving space? So it's really interesting how oftentimes we try to say like the voice of the heart is something that it's not. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Are you picking up what I'm throwing down?
I am, yeah.
It's a good one to get familiar with. Okay, Neil said, I feel like I might still be in a training wheel state when it comes to my chakra balancing meditation. It's so much easier for me to find balance through guided meditation than through my own. Honey, that's true for a lot of us,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning. Like,
I put my training wheels back on and take them off all the time.
yeah, like sometimes, especially like I tend to meditate in complete silence now, but there are those days and moments where I need something, whether it's music or guidance. Like, don't worry about that, babe. Like, we all go through that. Even as little help as meditative music and the frequency of whatever chakra I'm focusing on is enough. Are there any techniques or methods to get to a place where I can take off the training wheels? Well, I mean, one, play with it. So like when I first started meditation, everything I did was guided. And then I transitioned into just music. And then I transitioned into just sitting in silence by myself. And, you know, I bumbled around with that. My mind would go crazy. Like, it was a process, okay? I mean, just sitting there beyond the mind noise, sitting there beyond, I want to get up and I'm bored, talking myself through, like, just sit, go back to the breath, focus on Om. Om was like my mantra to just, I would Om over and over again until I could drown out my other thoughts. So it's not something, of course, like any of this, it doesn't happen overnight. You'll have moments where you're like, holy shit, I did it. Oh, that was amazing. And then the next day you may fall back into not, you know, like it just.
Not having expectations of what training wheels are or having your training wheels or not, because the expectations, they will F you up. And yeah, getting to a place to take off the training wheels, just take them off and see what happens. You might be pleasantly surprised and say, oh, I didn't ever really need them. Or, you know, maybe there's a time and a place for them.
Yeah. And Kristen had a tip for Michelle. She said, lock yourself in the bathroom. She's a mom too. A way to get some of that personal time. Okay. So the heart. Let's roll on up.
So moving up to the throat chakra. When the throat chakra is balanced, we can easily speak our truth. We're good at offering sound advice. So offering sound advice is advice where you can actually really hear what somebody else's need is and be able to advise them based on that versus what your own opinion is. Communicating your needs and wants clearly, and respecting, being able to express things such as your weaknesses, and respecting other people's as well, and not putting judgments on things like that. So speaking your truth, but also speaking your vulnerabilities, and just speaking all of everything that makes us who we are. When it's excessive or deficient, we can be over opinionated, critical of others, verbally abusive, raising your voice often, stifling others' expressions of themselves, I think is a huge one. And then being misunderstood or misinterpreting others, difficult being honest with yourself,
Did you underline that one?
Which one?
Honest with yourself.
Honest with yourself, yeah. And giving mixed messages. So, I mean, the throat chakra is a center of communication. So not being able to communicate directly with somebody else means that you're not being able to communicate directly with yourself. So mixed messages to somebody else is you expressing something that you're not quite communicating with yourself clearly as well.
Yeah, I love this chakra. If you guys listened to our episode last week, you know this one is the one I got super excited about because the throat chakra for me, it like speaks so much to our energetic alchemy. But I also shared with you guys that I look at the upper and the lower chakras as like as above, so below. And so the throat chakra is in direct relationship to our solar plexus. And so that can also highlight where if you're not in your confidence, then yes, you may have trouble or discomfort with communicating what you feel, you know, and there are times, again, it may be situational. Sometimes we feel very comfortable expressing with certain people. We may be in certain environments where we don't feel confident to speak up or say what we feel or these types of things. Another thing where you can tell if it's off is volume. You know, like some people speak like this and I'm like, what'd you say? I have a naturally like soft voice, so I feel like I'm yelling all the time just to project my voice. But one thing that's interesting in this is you can literally build a relationship with your voice because there is power in sound. And the way I like to think of it is our voices all have like unique coding, kind of like our fingerprints are unique. Your voice has unique tonality and unique coding as well. So it's like get familiar with your voice. Pay attention to how your pitch changes in different situations and how you speak, how that may alter energy or shift things around you. Notice how you project or speak when you feel different things, you know? And so anyway, in doing that, you can tell when your own throat chakra may be off. You can tell when how you speak and how you project when you feel balanced and confident and all of these things. I think the throat chakra is like, it's amazing.
It is. And when you're saying that, it makes me think of like some people who, I mean, we've all probably recognized this in particular, people who don't control the tone of their voice or the level of it. And some of them, they're always highly functioning on a loud volume, even when it's not necessary, or vice versa. Just pay attention to things like that because it'll help you start to understand chakras a little bit better as well.
Yeah. And it just reminded me of too. So yesterday was my birthday and I had 4 friends all send me voice memos of singing happy birthday to me. When I tell you, that made my freaking day. But what was so amazing about it is they all had different tones. They all had different pitches and how they sang, whatever. But their different sounds and the different ranges and how they use their voices all triggered a different emotional response in me. Do you know what I mean?
Did any of them trigger anger?
No.
When I call and sing happy birthday to my dad, it's a different tone that he receives. This is an emotion that's triggered in him. Just kidding.
But think about what your voice too, like what its unique coding may be good for. So me, for example, before I got into this work, my throat chakra and we were not friends. I was like, why I'm 30 something and I sound like I'm 12. And I was really annoyed about it. I can't sing. I sound like a dead chicken. Like it's problematic. But when I got into this work and I started facilitating guided meditations and people would tell me like, oh my God, your voice is so calming and it's so like, ooh. And I was like, oh, whoa, it's good for something. My voice is good for guided meditation. High five up top.
I had a friend tell me that too. She's like, every time I listen to something that you record or a guided meditation you do, she's like, it just sends me away. I'm like, really? My voice? She's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. So, I mean, which brings us to like how we hear things also, you know, like I hear my voice and I'm like, oh God, that must be awful. And somebody else hears it. And they're like, it does something wonderful for me.
But it also speaks to too, the power of your energy, because if you, like if I'm doing a guided meditation, obviously well, not obviously, but I prepare my energy first to go into a certain energetic state so that what I am projecting out is like the encoding of this trance-like state versus, say again, like a motivational speaker. They are projecting in a very particular way that is meant to like amplify and get you excited and woo, you know, like it's amazing what you can do. Michelle said, I've been incorporating chanting mantras in my meditation. Big shift. See?
Yeah. Yeah. The vibrations raise the frequency.
That, oh.
Is that happening?
Yeah, that's you.
I know.
We have Sanatam Kaur. I love her music. If you guys haven't ever heard her music, she has the voice of an angel, but a lot of her, what she's singing is chanting. It'll put you like, you'll be full blown, like crying on Mars, out of this world. Sanatam Kaur, check it out. Mo said, where's the line between sharing, giving, and receiving? Advice in separation from your own personal experiences, i.e. speaking from truth, if that makes sense. It does make sense. Yeah. Sometimes it's not necessary to speak. You know, this is how I look at it. If someone is telling me something, because we're all thinking as people are talking to us, right? So this could be in session or with my friends. If someone is telling me something and I'm having my own thoughts, I'm also checking myself internally, like, am I in judgment? Is this necessary to say? Am I just wanting that? Like, what is my motivation behind what potentially is about to come out of my mouth? I always check my motivation first. And I also have to check my ego with knowing I'm not the boss of that. Like what is good for me is not necessarily good for them. So a lot of times it's just a matter of just listening, holding space, supporting people. And then if I am, you know, depending on what it is, I may ask questions to probe or to help them come to their own answer. I think it's just very situational, but because that's very different than a situation where you may be confronted with something or someone and there is a need to speak your truth, like because it's directly impacting you. I think that's sometimes what the line is for me. Is this a situation that's directly impacting me, and how can my voice support me, versus am I in a situation where someone else is working through their stuff and they need to find their way? So that's what works for me. How about you?
Yeah, I think a big piece of it is, yes, absolutely listening, but also understanding what the person is seeking, because maybe they are seeking advice from you based on your experience or based on your relationship with them. I do believe that the answers are all inside of us, and everything we need to know, we already know it for ourselves. But we are here on this planet to connect, share, and help each other. So sometimes we do seek out advice from other people or learning from other people because they've had experiences that maybe we haven't had. So it is very situational, and it is very understanding what the person who is coming to you, what it is that they're seeking. Are they seeking just getting it out in a safe place to get this place out and somebody that'll hold the space for them? Or are they actually really looking for direction and guidance?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to do.
But in
I'll
all of
tell
that
you
being
what
said,
I think if you're my friend, like, you know, I'll tell you what I think, but I'm ultimately going to say, friend, do what's best for you, because, you know, like, we're not all the same.
Right.
What were you going to say, honey? I'm sorry.
I don't remember.
Michelle said, I read yesterday, listen and silent have the same letters. Interesting. I love wordplay.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm always fascinated, like, where did these words even come from? The labeling of everything.
I know. No. Okay. Shall we move on?
Oh.
We've got 2 more chakras to cover.
Yes, we do. Good, Boz. Mo said, got it. Thank you. Third eye.
Okay, third eye. So when it's balanced, this is a big one. Understanding that you are the creator of your own reality. And we can reach higher states of consciousness, receive messages, increased memory, and deeper intuition. That's all when our third eye is balanced. When it is excessive or deficient, we can have delusions, mental disease, be judgmental, unsympathetic, or over intellectualizing things. We can just be stressed out and have headaches, difficulty understanding spiritual side and connection between inner and outer reality, lack of empathy, common sense, or intuition, and even challenged learning and memory.
You know, it makes me think of too, another common one that people talk about to tell if your third eye is open or blocked or this or that are your dreams. So some people that have very vivid dreams, that can be indication that your third eye is very open, versus if you have trouble with dream recall, you may have some type of imbalance going on there. But again, I mean, there are things you can do to work on balancing your third eye. I guess that's what we missed out, to tell people how to work on the stuff. Sorry.
Ooh. To work on the stuff? Oh, the imbalance.
Yeah. So like, for example, like, you know, the root chakra, go in nature and ground and whatever, like, you know, but one thing you guys could do with the third eye, that is a fun exercise, is if you close your eyes and try to visualize certain imagery and just hold the image as long as you can. I mean, typically it's only going to be in your mind's eye for a few seconds, but even if the more you practice, the longer you can sustain it. So it's a good way of like building that third eye muscle. So if you close your eyes and you try to envision like a blue circle, or even with your eyes open right now, you can see an elephant in front of you. Like you get that impression or the imprint of an elephant in the room, right? So the more you work on intentionally seeing with your mind's eye, or paying attention to how you visualize or see beyond the physical eyes, you strengthen that third eye muscle. Now, one of the things too that is good to note is a lot of people are so excited, like, ooh, I want to open my third eye. Like I want to, ooh. Go back to the root. Promise you. Be grounded in your body before you go trying to open your third eye wide open, because, and Michelle, if she's still here, can attest to this. If you start opening your third eye, you will start to see and sense more deeply and be more aware of what is present in non-physical form. And if you're not grounded in your person, that can send you
scare the shit out of you.
Yeah. It can send you like, what? Yeah. Talk about in fear. Versus when you are grounded in yourself, strengthened your sacral, and are managing your own feeling. And when you're confident in your solar plexus, all of these, the buildup, then it's like, it's more, you do better with navigating an open third eye. I promise you.
Because you're going to see some stuff that you didn't know you could see. And you got to have the rooted understanding that it's all part of it.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Once that. Because you can't really dictate or like predict what you're going to, because we all have some natural inclinations when it comes to our third eye gifts, if that's what you want to call them. And so you have no idea how your personal reading style or viewing style or intuitive abilities will manifest themselves. So it's really good to be confident in your person. That's why even like when I teach, like I have an online intuition class, like we started with the chakras. That's actually the first module. But each thing is like building you up to prepare yourself for that, like, because it matters. I promise.
All right. Lastly, we've moved all the way up to the crown. And when this is balanced, we have great intuitive knowledge, wisdom, bliss. We're selflessly devoted to the well-being of others as the collective one. And we have an awareness of our spiritual self. When this is out of whack, we have trouble grounding. So we've talked about being like way too out there. So if we're trying too hard to get all of that, you're never going to be able to come back down and ground. Possessing a God complex. There's a lot of spiritual leaders out there that have imbalanced crown chakras, feelings of superiority, Also feeling unloved, sense of doom, a lack of purpose, lack of desire to discover inner self, and an excessive fear of death for a deficient crown.
Yeah, it can also put you in a space of like delusion and depression when your crown is out of balance. So that's another way you can tell, like if you do feel isolated, not by choice, or if you feel separate from everyone or everything, and it's not because, again, it's not because you're deciding like, oh, I want to hermit myself away. If you are feeling that disconnection from yourself or others, like, well, more so like outside of you, that's where you can tell the crown is imbalanced. If you're feeling disconnected from yourself, you more so want to look at the root. And again, I told you guys I look at the chakras as above, so below. So the crown and the root are in that relationship. Am I disconnected from myself? Do I feel disconnected from everyone and everything else? The crown is also a very, and all the chakras are interesting to me, but the crown for me often seems like a receptivity. Like, you know, I think a lot of times we think of our third eye as that intuitive space, but the crown is almost like the funnel, like, you know, like the portal into this vision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the crown, I think, again, you can kind of check how you feel about, like, do you feel connected to a higher power? Do you feel connected to other people, earth, whatever it may be? Also, are you becoming like a fanatic? Because we can, especially like in the spiritual realm, like you said, not even just the God complex, but also just becoming like fanatical about things, like obsessed with like spiritual pursuit, out of balance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Becoming obsessed with the spiritual pursuit takes us out of our humanness, which you got a body, it's undeniable. Yeah.
Those upper and lower chakras meeting right there. Balance,
that's right.
Harmony. So we went through all of them. Do you guys have anything you want to share? Any questions, anything that comes up before we wrap it up for today? Ooh, what about you, honey? Right now, is there any particular chakra that's like highlighted for you?
Anyone? I'd probably say my root and sacral are what I'm working on right now, because I'm working on mind your chakras and trying to put it out there. And, you know, the emotions that go with the creativity and, you know, instability of like, do I go back and part-time get like a corporate job that would be really safe and stable? Or do I get all this creative knowledge out and into the world and, you know, keep my finances stabilized with that? So those are the two I'm working on, along with my chakra course, which hopefully will be done within the next month.
I love it. I think my two I'm working on are the solar plexus and throat right now. That balancing, and again, it's kind of related to like what you're doing, but with just focus on like what I'm creating and what I'm putting out in the world, what I'm sharing in the world. That's my focus right now. Neil said, I definitely think I threw myself out of balance with my spiritual pursuit these last 2 days. I woke up this morning feeling like a space cadet. Yeah. And just know too, like, it's part of the process. Like, we go through cycles. Like, sometimes we're hungry for information and we go like batshit, just like, give me, feed me. Yeah. And then we'll hit a wall like, oh my God, I need to integrate, like, what the hell's happening? Yeah. Sometimes we feel spacey. Sometimes we're like so grounded we don't want to move.
Yeah. So there's a digestion period that happens. Yeah. You know, you have that energy to and motivation to consume, but then at some point, like, all of that stuff that's come into here needs some time to marinate and kind of work itself out.
Yeah. I learned that the hard way. Yeah. So thank you all so much for sharing with us today. We really love like your participation, your feedback. It's what makes this like fun for us.
Yes. Amazing.
We are, did we decide that yoga is our next topic?
Yeah, I think it should be.
Yeah. So our next topic, which will start next Wednesday, will be about yoga. So if you guys personally have any questions or particular aspects of yoga that you would like discussed, be sure to put it on the wall. share with us. Let us know. Someone's ringing my doorbell. It's probably Amazon. No. But yeah, let us know, because we love to, bring in whatever you guys want to know as well, because this is about you. This is our community to all learn and grow together. So
yeah, thank you all for being here and sharing your morning with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for being understanding with our rough morning.
Yeah. Yes, and adaptable. We appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Alrighty. Bye.